The new battle cry from Trump: the election is rigged. It's rigged by the media. It's rigged at the polls. It's rigged everywhere. Even Saturday Night Live, who once let Donald host the show, is involved in this massive conspiracy. Let's quote the book of Deuteronomy.
I think they are the news media. This is not about election officials at the precinct level. I think it's amazing that Trump is as close as he is right now, considering the one-sidedness of the news media barrage. And the best description of it is by Barry Castleman in his blog, where he said this is a coup d'etat. He said 14 million citizens in private ballots picked Donald Trump. 20 TV executives have decided to destroy him.
Everybody. True, the media is rigged, but it was rigged for Trump all damn year. He got more free media than the weather, dwarfing not just his primary foes, but Hillary as well. If it wasn't for the media, who fell over Trump every time he sneezed, we'd have a different candidate. So yeah, it was rigged, and that rigging gave us Trump. He should be extremely grateful. Of course, now he still gets the same coverage, but it's soaked in opposition research. Was he set up? Could it be the media propelled him to the top of the heap, knowing he would be so easy to bring down later? Short answer, yes. Long answer, hell yes. But it feels like Trump is blaming the refs before the game is played, anticipating a loss. And worse, it's a signal that the worst kind of liberal identity politics has spread beyond its borders. We know liberal bias exists, but it used to be that the left were the victimhood kings. But now Trump has stolen their act, running as the champion of the cheated, which must upset the left, for the media believes only the left can be aggrieved. Thanks to Trump, now there's competition. All right, Dana, is creating this mentality of everything's rigged. He's not just talking about the media. He's talking about polling stations. He's tweeting about. Is that smart, or is it dangerous, or is it a mixture of both?
It depends on what your goal is. So what's the goal? Is it to make sure your people turn out for the polls and they're angry? That probably helps, at least a little bit. It does seem to me he's conceding a little bit too early. I mean, his poll in Ohio today was pretty good, so I would let that go. I mean, the polls everywhere else are pretty bad. And the thing is, to be robbed, the election must be close. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you're robbed of like the Vizsla never wins at Westminster Kennel at the dog show, and he was robbed, but the truth is actually they're never even in the top 6. So
right.
They're not really robbed, they just don't win. They don't win on the merits.
Right.
And I think that's a thing that the Republican Party has to really be thinking about, which is now we've had 3 elections in a row where the conservative Republican ideas are not persuasive enough to a broad enough majority of the people, and in particular going forward what that means with millennials as they grow older. There's a poll out today that said only 28% of millennials plan to vote for Trump. That is not good enough for the future. Could it be good enough for Donald Trump this time around? Maybe there's a path along the way, but I think saying that it's rigged, I agree with a lot of people who say that it's dangerous.
Is it, Eric, if the message is going to work with his supporters, will it get anybody else?
Well, so Kellyanne Conway came out this afternoon and said what he's talking about, take it or leave it, she said what he's talking about is the media portion, not necessarily that the polling places
but
are rigged.
She was wrong because he tweeted polls.
But she clarified it, saying it was what they talked about going after was the media bias, and we all know, we've talked about media bias for years here. We know the mainstream media is left-wing. Here's the thing, though. Trump did get a lot of free press, a lot of free media, but it wasn't all good. There was a lot of bad stuff in the meantime. If you need any proof of that, turn on CNN, and it's just like trashing him the whole time down. That's part of the free media he's getting. Also this. This big Billy Bush videotape that came out, that was a very important moment in the campaign. It hurt Donald Trump. And then the accusers started to come, and that followed. And that was very, very important opposition research that was exposed by the media, not by the other 16 GOP candidates that are running against him. So, yes, you're right, and I think Trump is right to a certain extent that the media is his biggest foe, not Hillary Clinton. His biggest enemy right now is his biggest combatant is not Clinton, is the mainstream media. Yeah.
But like I said, if you compared the amount of coverage that his primary challengers got, I mean, you live by the media, you die by the media.
Well, for sure. And it has been both a darling in some respects to him because he's been able to get a lot of press and coverage and focus on him. But he's also the guy that says yes to the interviews. I know when we've tried to book people, you know, and New Year's and other things, it's like people are like, no, no, or Hillary, come on here, no. But he says yes, and he makes himself available, and he sticks around and talks to all the reporters after each of these debates in the primaries. I saw it, and I was like, wow, honey badger, because he wasn't going home. It was still like 12:30, etc. But again, there's risk with that. There can be great reward, but tremendous risk. Because what do we see? This is almost just like, you know, medieval in its origins. They build you up to, you know, take you down for the great fall. Obviously, they had this opposition research and this tape of him. They knew that this existed, but it was placed and perfectly timed for like maximum impact.
But who do you think knew that I'm just curious.
NBC
like when he says
knew they had it. I mean, they knew they had it. And there is some evidence to suggest that as well in terms of
that's
like
not what I've read.
Billy Bush, talking about it.
Well, he talked about it in August at the...
For sure.
The Olympics.
And so, so I think that if they had that, they know it, then was it leaked ahead of time? It was going to come out also that Monday, but then it was leaked on that Friday. So there's a lot of different things. I mean, we're probably not going to know all of it until kind of this sorts out and we see what happens in the election. But I will tell you this, and I'll be quick. The new Politico Morning Consult poll of registered but not likely voters indicates 41% of voters now believe November's election could be stolen from Donald Trump due to widespread voter fraud, and 73% of Republicans think the election could be swiped from him.
Right.
So just 17% of Democrats. Maybe he's keeping on with this to say this so that his voters are super motivated to turn out for him, because that's the chance that he has, because the polls don't look like he can gain much ground from getting new supporters or people added on from women or minorities or independents.
Juan, trying to get all of your supporters or to believe that America has rigged elections like a third world dictatorship or a banana republic, is this healthy?
It's not healthy at all, and that's why I think you see pushback from Republican officials. And that's why Trump's at war right now with the Republican Party chair in a state like Ohio, where you would think that, oh my gosh, he's not doing bad in Ohio, but here he is attacking the party chair because the party chair is associated with the governor, John Kasich. And so he's going after the party chair, and the party chair, I think, was on Fox News today saying, hey, wait a second, we run a fair election. I'm responsible for election here. I'm a Republican. You see the same thing in North Carolina. He's going after Republican officials. And what you see is pushback, including from people like Paul Ryan. He just continues to attack Paul Ryan. Again, I don't know why, but he's going after Republicans. To me, it looks like the Civil War is raging. The problem is, then he also says things, Greg, like, oh, you know what? You should monitor those inner cities. Oh, geez. I mean, so now it's like, oh, yeah, let's go after those minority people, because that's where they are. Inner city is a euphemism for that. And so, you know what we're going to do? We're going to ask our white voters to watch those minority. I mean, I think this is poisonous for us as a people, as an American people.
Well, can I play Giuliani? This is Giuliani this morning talking about voter fraud.
I'm sorry, dead people generally vote for Democrats rather than Republicans. Do you want me to tell me that I think the election in Philadelphia and Chicago is going to be fair? I would have to be a moron to say that. I've found very few situations where Republicans cheat. They don't control the inner cities the way Democrats do. Maybe if Republicans control the inner cities, they do as much cheating as Democrats.
That's pretty funny.
I think this is a losing strategy, that part of it. It's too early to be saying we may lose because of the process is rigged. Generally, it's not, unless you're really, really close and there's some fraud that goes on. It's a winning strategy to say the process is rigged because the media is in the tank for the Democrat.
Right.
That works, and that will get people behind you. But this idea that we may lose already with 22 days out, it's a mistake, because he's within the margin of error in every single swing state, every single one of those, with the exception of maybe Michigan. I think it's 10 or 11. But everything else is within the margin of error. This is not over if you get the right message and nail it down now.
One of the things that the media couldn't rig was organizational efforts in the states. And if you look at early voting, the Democrats put a premium on it. They've worked on it very diligently, and that's paying returns for them in places like Florida, possibly even in North Carolina, and maybe in Ohio. Not as well in Ohio, but they knew that state was going to be tough for them. So the media can't rig that part. That is a responsibility of the Republican National Committee and the candidate himself. And the fact that the first debate was so important and he was largely believed to have lost that debate, the media couldn't rig his performance. So believe me, I get it that the media could be left-wing. I mean, look at what happened to Romney.
Yeah.
He was the media darling during the primary season, and then as soon as he became the candidate, they went after him,
yeah,
and they went after him hard. But you kind of have to factor that into your thinking as you go into it.
You know what?
If you're
The media can't make stuff up. I mean, I'm just astounded. Every day.
I don't know.
The media didn't make up the 47% Romney tape.
No, they didn't make up the tape with Billy Bush, right? That's what was. Those were his
But
words.
they certainly spent a lot of time digging for
All
stuff.
I'm saying,
and the
are you
point is
thinking
that
politics we don't dig on each other?
No, yeah, I don't think the media spends a 1/20th the amount of time they spent on digging for the GOP nominee's history and background
you know what?
that they do for the Democrats.
You're so right, because who came up with this email stuff on Hillary Clinton?
Not them.
Oh,
not
not the New York Times.
You mean the original?
Times.
Yeah.
Oh, I make stuff up. But anyway, let me just say, I think that what you've got here is a situation where the momentum is clearly with Hillary Clinton in all these swing states. But the key point is, I hear from people all the time, well, maybe the polls are wrong because there's a silent group of people, Trump supporters, who are afraid to admit they're a Trump supporter, and they're going to rush to the polls. This is what Trump is now saying. This is the last. But every time, Greg, it's stoking alienation, anger, a sense that somehow the system is against him. And even Republicans are against him.
But we got to move on. But my point is, the left has been stoking division forever, and it's just the right has finally learned from the left. I think that's what you're seeing.
Trump. I don't think this is the right. I don't think this is the Republican Party.
It's the Trump Party.
That's what I think.
Yes, the next new party.
And what's next?
I don't know. Ahead.
B block.